Hello everyone, friends. It's the last trading day of the week in the markets, and once again we have important news flows ahead. What are the key news items in the markets at a fundamental level? How are the products we're following on a technical level performing, and what are their latest outlooks? We'll look at each of these separately. Trump has made fresh statements again, and in fact there hasn't been a period or even a day recently when Trump hasn't made a statement. If you remember when Trump first took office, I nicknamed him Deli Dumrul. You know, Deli Dumrul from the Dede Korkut tales. I'm sure some of you have read them. Deli Dumrul had a bridge built and forced everyone, whether they crossed or not, to pay money. He was even so confident in himself that he would challenge God. But in the end, Deli Dumrul realized his own helplessness, of course. And that's always how the story goes for Trump and many others, my friends. Today he shakes his finger at the whole world, but before long he'll be just an ordinary person waiting for death in helplessness. And if we get to our topic, when we ask what's in Trump's latest statements, there's a new promise he made about Greenland. Trump made a promise to the people of Greenland. Trump says, we could pay up to $100,000 per person, but only if the people of Greenland support joining America. The nation sikten bamon pasatiko. In other words, Trump wants to buy Greenland indirectly by paying $100,000 per person. And some people might be curious about this. If you ask what makes Greenland so important, it's because Greenland is the place that could make America a leader in rare earth elements. In short, even though America is #1 in the world, it is in a position where it cannot pay off its national debt. And that's why America will continue to attack different countries with an expansionist policy. Look, as you know, they recently carried out an operation in Venezuela. After this operation, in the latest news today, the US Secretary of Energy made a statement and said, we will sell Venezuela's oil. The revenue obtained from this will be kept in American accounts. And they made a statement saying that they will control Venezuela's oil indefinitely. Of course, investors and those following the situation will ask this. What do these news mean for us? Of course, here we are faced with many issues, such as a global fear and the continued flight of investors towards safe assets like gold. When we ask what areas investors might be interested in today when it comes to products with limited supply, it's not just gold and silver. Products like platinum and palladium are also attracting a lot of attention. Copper, likewise, is attracting interest. In the same way, I believe that Bitcoin, which I think has completed its downward and sideways trends, could also come to the forefront here. Of course, local market participants are also curious about my thoughts on Borsa Istanbul. In a moment, we'll look at all of these individually on the charts, friends. First of all, when we look at gold's current outlook, I think it has held the 4,360 and 4,250 region well. I expect gold to maintain this region in the coming period. Look, today the non-farm payroll data will be released. Most likely, by the time you watch this video, the non-farm payroll data will have already been released. And when this data comes out, I don't care at all about the direction of the short-term movements. The market can go up or down. What we need to focus on is the main trend. What does the main trend look like? This is what matters to us. In other words, what we need to do is see the dips as opportunities. And when the market rises, lean back and watch the continuation of this trend without getting carried away. Because gold is showing a very strong trend. And as I just explained, the policy that the United States is spreading all over the world definitely benefits products with limited supply, what we call commodities, in a positive way. At this point, some people ask, for example, why don't you make the same comment about silver? There are also those who ask this. When it comes to silver, I'll talk about that in a moment as well. But I would like to say this. If gold closes above the 4,547 resistance level on the weekly close, and we're already very close to this area, gold will very clearly enter a new upward wave. That's why today's closing prices are very important. On the side of gram gold, the level we roughly consider as resistance here is 6,450 TL. This is a level that has not been tested or seen before. But this resistance level, which I measured and drew months ago, has continued to stand here ever since, even when gram gold was at the 4,000 TL level. I've already explained to you the trend that goes up to the 6,450 TL levels. We will probably start discussing the signs of the second phase of this trend together next week, along with this week's closing prices. I will start to explain where it could go at higher levels. As I said, in terms of the weekly close, spot gold needs to close above the $4,547 level. For silver, this resistance level is above $83. The current resistance zone for silver is a bit higher. It is very difficult for silver to achieve a weekly close above this level. In other words, it seems quite difficult for it to rise by 7 or 8% in a single day today. But if there had been a weekly close, we would be talking about a new upward trend for it as well. It's necessary to clarify this point again. I'm talking about global tensions here. When I make comments that products like gold, silver, platinum, palladium, and even Bitcoin would benefit positively, some people will say this. Then why did you recommend taking profits in silver? Sandis Ageso? Actually, I think I explained this very clearly, but let me explain again for those who still don't understand. What I'm saying is that, in my opinion, silver has already realized in the short term the potential gains that were expected to be spread out over the medium term, whereas gold hasn't risen as much. That's why I say gold is a more reasonable option in this period, while silver is a bit riskier. Because if something happens that I didn't expect and these assets start to decline, I believe silver could experience sharper losses. And in an environment where such sharp losses occur, I don't want to see my profits wiped out. Did I make myself clear? I think I did, right? The topic is actually very clear. I commented that in order not to let profits be wiped out, it's necessary to sell at least 50% of the deposits you hold and take your profits. That's exactly the summary of the situation here, and silver is still roughly at the same levels. Whether it's $75, $73, or $78, I think profits should be taken in silver regardless of the exact price. I don't intend to make the same comment for gold. Look, there have also been sharp sell-offs in gold at the mint. There's an 18% loss in mint gold from the peak level. Of course, there was already a significant price divergence between gram gold and ounce gold. This situation is also quite normal. In other words, the mint gold certificate is currently a product that does not move in line with market realities. So it's not easy at all to predict its price. Normally, this product is a certificate, a piece of paper that is fully backed by gold. Therefore, under theoretical conditions, this product should be equivalent to the price of gram gold. Or depending on investor interest, it could be 5 or 10% below or above that price. But there shouldn't be a price difference of 50 or 80%. If I see such a difference here, I would look for other factors at play, and what would I do? I wouldn't make any assessment or investment in the mint gold certificate. Look, let me show you palladium as well. For example, when palladium recently dropped, it experienced a 24% decline. My indicators also entered into the cloud region. It showed a movement here indicating it had completed its correction. For me, this was a point to consider buying. We also discussed this in the YouTube members chat. Products that drop down to support levels like this, here, the $1,513 level was the support. Palladium bounced back from there. If the same situation had happened with silver's ounce price, meaning if there had been a move down to the $64 level here, I would have made the same comment for that as well. But it turned back from here. In my opinion, the decline was left unfinished here. That's why, in my opinion, making a new assessment for silver doesn't make sense. Other than that, as you know, I also had a positive expectation for Borsa Istanbul. Starting from the 10,800 level, I talked about an upward movement and my expectation that Borsa Istanbul would climb to record levels, and Borsa Istanbul did indeed reach record highs. It has entered a quality zone both on the daily and 4-hour charts. The 11,590 level will continue to act as support, and I would like to reiterate that I expect the upward trend in Borsa Istanbul to continue in January. At the moment, I don't have any opinion about taking profits or selling on this side. So to summarize the topic here, gold can be bought gradually, but I do not have the same perspective for silver. And let me say again, in my opinion, silver is currently in a profit-taking zone. In Borsa Istanbul, it is necessary to continue waiting in the positions that have been taken and evaluated. What are we going to wait for? We are going to wait to see further increases. I think that in January, Borsa Istanbul will bring more profit to investors. Some stocks moved less, while others moved faster. I think these will switch places with each other and, roughly speaking, bring profit to investors across all stocks. When we come to the cryptocurrency side, if you ask what kind of movement Bitcoin has made in the last trend we followed and what this drawing is, we last drew this in the members-only chat. We talked about it in the last broadcast. Roughly speaking, Bitcoin is currently moving within such a pattern. In other words, the 89,600 region continues to serve as support. Look, this support area in the cloud region has been touched twice. Both times Bitcoin held this level. Actually, my main expectation here is for the upward movements to continue. I would expect Bitcoin to climb back to the 93,500 level. And after that, a trend towards the $101,000 levels is very likely for Bitcoin. Bitcoin, which couldn't keep up with the rises in gold and silver, now seems to have the potential to do so after this trend break it experienced during this period. In other words, we are in a zone where it has started to hold above the cloud indicator and the color of the cloud has turned green. At least that's what the technical indicators are telling me. Look, the current situation on the Ethereum side is as follows. The $3,057 level, which is exactly where the cloud is currently acting as support. Roughly speaking, this $3,050 to $3,100 region can be considered as a support zone. The cloud region for XRP is a bit lower, around the 2.03 level, but nothing changes for me. I think these products will continue to experience these trend breakouts by following each other. And I would like to add this as well. There was also a trend breakout in the total 3 chart, which shows the market cap of altcoins other than Bitcoin and Ethereum. This trend breakout was the first one since October. As long as the market cap stays above $850 billion, the technical outlook suggests that the upward trend will continue. So I think that in the coming days, the upward movement in the cryptocurrency market should continue. Don't pay too much attention to the sudden moves in the markets following today's non-farm payroll data. Don't get too caught up in the wicks going up or down. Don't try to open new positions during sudden price movements. Look at the levels I'm following. Which support levels, which zones. Focus on these areas. If you're going to take a position, do it from these areas. In other words, you don't have to take a position at exactly the same level. When I say XRP, 3 points up or 3 points down is all the same to me, because we've never targeted a 2 or 3% gain or even a 10% gain in these products. We've never had a short-term perspective either. I hope that after today's employment data is released, a new path will open up for us. On this path, we'll start talking about new trends next week. Other than that, there's nothing else I can add for now. No matter what the prices are, I hope you're all doing well, my friends. Take care of yourselves and see you in the next video. Subscribing to my channel and turning on notifications is an investment advice for yourself. Stay ahead of the developments.